adventurers, and welcome back to TinyNest Stories. Gather round, because today we're sailing far, far north to the icy fjords of Norway, where colossal mountains scrape the clouds and brave Vikings get ready for the long, cold winter. Among these legendary warriors was a young Viking named Arvid the Kind. Now, Arvid was famous throughout the villages, not for his strength in battle, but for his unbreakable spirit. They said he was the Viking who once broke his sword, but never, ever broke his heart. One frosty morning, as the sun peeked over the snowy peaks, Arvid and his best friends Sven, Kara, and Ivar stood on the frozen shore, their breath turning to mist in the chilly air. They stared out at the sea, which was locked in a thick sheet of ice. Their own fishing boat was trapped, but that wasn't the biggest problem. Far out in the distance, another ship was stranded, and the faint cries of its sailors drifted towards them on the wind. Kara gasped, her eyes wide with worry. "They'll freeze before nightfall. We have to do something." But Sven, ever the practical one, shook his head, his brow furrowed. "Look at that ice, Kara. It's far too thick. We'll never break through in time." Arvid didn't take his eyes off the distant ship. The shimmering white sea looked like an impossible challenge, but a determined glint appeared in his eyes. He turned to his friends and said with quiet confidence, "We will, if we work together." Without wasting another moment, they sprang into action. They gathered strong ropes, sharp axes, and sturdy wooden planks. Just as they were ready, the wind began to howl, and a flurry of snow started to fall, blurring the world into a swirling white canvas. The villagers gathered on the shore, watching with anxious faces as the four young Vikings stepped onto the cracking ice. Their progress was slow and deliberate. Sven, with his powerful arms, swung his axe, shattering the thinner layers of ice in their path. Kara followed closely behind, carefully laying down wooden planks to distribute their weight and prevent them from falling into the freezing water below. Ivar, the master of knots, secured the ropes, shouting directions over the wind. "Keep moving, stay steady." And leading them all, with calm and focus, was Arvid, guiding them step by step across the treacherous frozen expanse. The bitter wind stung their faces, and the ice groaned and moaned beneath their feet, threatening to give way at any moment. But they didn't falter. They kept their eyes on the stranded sailors, their shared goal fueling their determination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the ship. The sailors were huddled together, shivering and exhausted, but their faces lit up with hope when they saw Arvid and his friends. "Quick!" Arvid shouted over the storm. "Grab onto the ropes." Working as a perfectly synchronized team, they pulled one sailor after another from the icy deck of the ship onto the relative safety of the thick ice. Just as the very last man was pulled clear, a deafening sound echoed across the fjord crack. A massive fissure split the ice, creating a wide, dark channel of water between them and the shore. "The ice is breaking apart," Kara cried out, pointing at the widening gap. Without a second's hesitation, Arvid took a running leap, flying across the chasm and landing safely on the other side. He immediately turned and held out his hand. "Come on, one by one, quickly," he yelled. Sven grabbed his outstretched hand and leaped across, then Kara, then Ivar. Together, they formed a human chain, pulling the rope taut to help the rescued sailors cross the perilous gap. Just moments before the ice floe they had been standing on collapsed into the dark, churning water. When they finally set foot on solid ground, the entire village erupted in cheers. The rescued sailors, overwhelmed with gratitude, hugged their young saviors. "You saved our lives," one of them exclaimed. "You are true heroes." Arvid just smiled and looked at his friends, their faces red from the cold but beaming with pride. "Not heroes," he replied warmly. "A team." The village chief, a wise old Viking with a long, gray beard, stepped forward. He placed a hand on Arvid's shoulder and announced to the crowd, "Today, you have all proved that even in the coldest of times, teamwork warms the heart. Alone, we are strong, but together, we are unstoppable." That night, as the magical northern lights danced across the sky in ribbons of green and purple. The whole village gathered around a roaring bonfire. The air was filled with joyous songs, laughter, and the comforting crackle of burning wood. Kara leaned over to Arvid and whispered, "Do you think your father would be proud of you, Arvid?" Arvid gazed into the glowing flames, a gentle smile on his face. "He already is," he said softly, "because I didn't do it alone." From that day forward, the story of the frozen sea rescue was told and retold, a legend passed down through generations. It taught every Viking child that true strength is not found in a single warrior, but in the unbreakable bond of a team. And that's the end of our story today, my friends. Always remember, just like Arvid and his friends showed us, teamwork can make even the most frozen seas melt with warmth. Thank you for joining us on this chilly adventure. If you loved our story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for TinyNest stories and tap the little bell icon so you never miss another magical tale. We'll see you next time.